The string quartet's music floated through our grand ballroom, but it couldn't muffle my mother's voice. She stood beside me, her smile a perfect, public mask. "Honestly, Amelia," she hissed, her lips barely moving. "You're lucky I even let you come to our anniversary party. Try not to make this about you for once." I froze, the crystal flute of champagne feeling like a lead weight in my hand. The insult, delivered so sweetly, hung in the air. A few nearby guests fell silent, their eyes darting away in awkwardness. I felt my cheeks burn with a familiar humiliation. Just as the world seemed to shrink, a woman in a black caterer's uniform quietly approached me from behind. She leaned in close. "Ma'am?" "Excuse me," she whispered. I braced for another blow. But she said, "Thank you. For everything." I was too stunned to reply. She had no idea I had heard my mother's cruel words. Something was very off. I excused myself, my legs shaky, and followed the caterer toward the kitchen's swinging door, away from the crowd. "I'm Elena," she said softly, her eyes kind. "What you did for the culinary school after the fire last year, you saved my job. You saved all of us." I stared at her, completely bewildered. I had no memory of this. I had heard about the fire, of course, but I hadn't done anything. My confusion must have shown. Elena's brow furrowed slightly. "You didn't know?" Before I could answer, she quickly slipped a small, folded piece of paper into my hand. "Read this later," she murmured urgently. Then her eyes flickered over my shoulder, and her expression shifted to one of alarm. My mother was storming toward us, her face a thundercloud of disapproval. "Amelia! Why are you bothering the staff?" she demanded, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter. "You're embarrassing me." My mother's scolding drew the attention of my aunts and uncles. She didn't lower her voice. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you act. Ungrateful." She shook her head, playing to her audience. "We've supported you through your financial struggles. And you repay us by causing a scene with the help." Each word was a carefully placed dagger. She was painting her favorite picture of me, the unstable, draining burden. The relatives nodded sympathetically at her, their glances at me full of pity. A cold clarity washed over me. This public belittling, this narrative she crafted, had gone on for the last time. I didn't argue. I just stood there, my hand closing tightly around the note in my palm. I made a silent, firm vow. This stopped tonight. Later, hidden in a quiet corner, I unfolded Elena's note. It contained a single name, the Crestwood Foundation. The name was a punch to my gut. The Crestwood Foundation. A memory, sharp and clear, surfaced. About 14 months ago, a local culinary school had suffered a devastating fire. I had seen the news and felt a deep pull to help. I'd made a sizable, anonymous donation to their recovery fund through the Crestwood Foundation. I wanted no credit, just to help. Now, the pieces clicked into a sickening picture. Elena, the caterer, was a student from that school. She thanked me because she thought I was the donor. But my mother must have found out about the donation and taken the credit for herself. I scanned the room and found her, holding court by the fireplace. She was gesturing gracefully, and I caught her words, so of course, I had to step in and fund the school's recovery. It's all about supporting our community. The audacity took my breath away. I watched her, this woman who had given me life, preen under the admiring glances of her friends. She basked in a praise she hadn't earned. And I realized this wasn't a one-time thing. This was a pattern. How many times had she taken credit for my quiet successes? How many times had she diminished my achievements to make herself look bigger? A lifetime of small moments replayed in my mind, each one revealing the same toxic truth. I was done being her silent, grateful shadow. I was done entirely. A family friend, Susan, touched my arm gently. "Amelia, are you okay? Your mother mentioned you were between jobs again. It must be so stressful." Another lie. I had a steady, if unglamorous, job in administration. I just hadn't told my mother about my recent, quiet applications for something better. I found my mother in the library, pretending to admire a first edition. "Why would you tell people I'm unemployed?" I asked, my voice low but steady. She turned, a smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, don't be so sensitive, Amelia. People feel sorry for you that way. It keeps their expectations nice and low. It's easier for you." The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. It wasn't a mistake, it was a strategy. Something inside me, something that had been bending for years, finally snapped. It was a clean, quiet break. Enough. I simply turned and walked away. As I left the room, my phone buzzed in my clutch. I pulled it out. It was an email. The subject line read, "Job offer, the Crestwood Foundation." I retreated to a bathroom stall, locking the door behind me. My hands trembled as I opened the email. The Crestwood Foundation. The same one that had processed my anonymous donation. They were offering me a position as a project development manager. The irony was so sharp it stole my breath. My mother had falsely claimed to manage donations through this very foundation. And now I was being hired to actually work there. It felt like fate was handing me a key. Without a second thought, I typed out my acceptance. It was the first secret I had ever kept from my family, and it felt like power. As I opened the stall door, ready to face the party again, I heard voices. My husband, Leo, and my mother were just outside, their whispers carrying. "She'll never move up, Leo," my mother said. "Just keep her contained. It's better for everyone." I stood frozen, hidden by the door. Leo's voice was a low murmur. "I know. I've been managing her finances, sharing everything with you. She gets too ambitious when she's not guided." My own husband. The man I shared a bed with. He had been sharing my private struggles, my insecurities, with the one person who used them as weapons against me. They had been a team, working together to keep me small. My whole world tilted on its axis. "As long as she never finds out about the account," my mother said, her tone final. The account? What account? A cold dread pooled in my stomach. This was so much deeper than I had imagined. The betrayal was a living thing, coiling tight around my heart. I took a deep, steadying breath and walked out. They jumped apart, their faces flashing with guilt before smoothing over. I didn't acknowledge them. I just walked back into the party as if I hadn't heard a thing. But everything was different. I watched them now like a scientist observing strange specimens. I calculated their movements, their fake laughs. I saw the strings my mother pulled, and I saw Leo, her willing puppet. I found Elena refilling a pastry tray. "Your business card," I said quietly, my voice surprisingly firm. "Please." She nodded, subtly slipping it into my hand. As she did, she leaned closer. "There's something you should know," she whispered, her eyes serious. "About your mother and the school." I met Elena outside by the loading dock where the catering vans were parked. The night air was cool. "Your mother," Elena began, "she promised the school a second, larger sponsorship for our new equipment. She made a big speech, got her name on our donor board. The check never came." My heart sank. We couldn't afford the equipment. We almost lost several instructors. The pattern was undeniable. My mother used charity as a vanity project, for the applause, not the outcome. Then Elena delivered the final blow. "Her name is engraved on our new donor plaque, but the only money we ever received from your family was that first anonymous donation. The one you made." She had built her reputation on my silent generosity. Monday morning, I started my new job at the Crestwood Foundation. I told no one. My first task, after settling in, was to request a quiet, internal audit of donor credits from the past 2 years. I used the upcoming gala preparation as a pretext, saying we needed to ensure accuracy for the event program. The director, Mrs. Albright, a sharp woman in her 60s, called me into her office later that afternoon. She had the preliminary report on her screen. She frowned, tapping a finger on her desk. "This is interesting, Amelia," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "Your mother's name is listed as the primary donor on at least 7 major contributions. It seems she's one of our most generous supporters." That evening, while Leo was watching TV, I went into our home office. I remembered an old, shared cloud storage folder we had used when we first merged our finances. He was careless with passwords and often reused them. On a hunch, I tried one. It worked. I sifted through old tax documents and spreadsheets. And then I found it. A file labeled Family Savings. It was a joint account under Leo and my mother's names. The statements showed regular, sizable deposits over the last 3 years. The source of the funds? Transfers from my old freelance business account, money I had earned before taking my salary job. They had been siphoning my own earnings into an account I didn't know existed. The paper trail was perfectly legal, but it was all my money. I became a ghost in my own life, moving silently. I gathered every piece of evidence I could find. Bank statements showing my income being transferred. Receipts from the Crestwood Foundation for my anonymous donations. Screenshots of emails where my mother boasted about her philanthropy. I compiled it all into a clean, factual folder. The truth was undeniable. I had funded nearly all the charitable acts my mother used to build her social status. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Amelia, darling," she said, her voice sweet. "The Foundation's annual gala is next month. I need you to help me host. Be my assistant. It'll look good for you." The irony was almost funny. "I'd love to, Mom," I said, my voice dripping with false sweetness. I could feel her surprise through the phone. "In fact, I'd be happy to handle the donor spotlight video for the event. I have some experience with editing." I heard her delighted gasp. She was thrilled. This would make her look even more generous, having her struggling daughter involved. She had no idea she was handing me the keys to her own downfall. "Wonderful. I'll have the Foundation send you all the records." After I hung up, Leo looked up from his book. "Just don't embarrass us, Amelia," he said, echoing my mother's favorite warning. He had no idea that us no longer included me. In my new office at the Foundation, I went through every file for the gala. I cross-referenced the official donor list with my own evidence. Every single donation my mother had claimed as her own, the culinary school, the children's hospital wing, the library grant, was linked to funds from my accounts. The Foundation's own records, which she had provided, showed her name, but the bank routing numbers traced back to me. Using simple, elegant slides, I created a donor tribute video. It was not an accusation. It was just a presentation of facts, names, and dates, set to soft, inspiring music. It showed the real donor, me. I emailed the final video file to my mother for her approval, knowing full well what her reaction would be. The phone call came less than an hour later. "Amelia." "What is this?" my mother shrieked, her composure utterly gone. "You need to remove your name from those credits immediately. Put mine back. This is a mistake." I held the phone away from my ear slightly. When she paused for breath, I replied, my voice calm and steady. "I'm sorry, Mother, but the donor records are the Foundation's official business. It's not my call to change them. I just made the video with the information I was given." There was a strangled sound on the other end of the line. "You foolish girl," she snarled, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "You'll ruin everything I built. Everything." Later that night, Leo confronted me. "Your mother is hysterical. What did you do?" He stood with his arms crossed, my mother's loyal soldier. "I just told the truth," I said simply. "The truth?" he scoffed. "Your mother made us who we are. She gives us our place in this community. You need to fall in line." In that moment, I saw him with perfect clarity. He wasn't just going along with her, he benefited from it. My suppressed confidence made him feel bigger. His status was tied to being my mother's good son-in-law, the one who managed her difficult daughter. Leo, I said, my voice quiet. What's the family savings account? The color drained from his face. Where did you hear about that? He stammered, following me into the kitchen. It's not what you think. The argument that followed was heated but quiet. I was done with shouting. He spluttered, trying to justify it. It was for our future. A safety net. You're so impulsive with money, Amelia. We were protecting you from yourself. The lies were so flimsy, so pathetic. If it's for our future, I replied, my voice like ice, then you won't mind if I take back what's legally mine. He had no response. The next morning, a formal letter arrived from the bank. It was the complete record of the family savings account, confirming that every single deposit had originated from my personal earnings. The week of the gala was a whirlwind. My mother tried everything to gain control, demanding to see the video, calling the foundation board, even threatening to pull her support. But it was too late. I had done my work professionally and thoroughly. The video was locked in and approved by Mrs. Albright and the entire board. I remained calm and professional through all my mother's meddling. The day before the event, Mrs. Albright pulled me aside. The board has seen the final video, Amelia. We've also reviewed the evidence you gathered. Your story, your integrity, it deserves to be told tonight. The finality in her voice was a comfort. The gala was spectacular. The hall was packed with the city's elite, all in glittering formal wear. I stood in the shadows, watching. My mother, ever the performer, took the stage for her opening speech. As a longtime patron of the arts and education, she began, her voice ringing through the microphone, I believe in giving back. She was still taking credit, laying it on thicker than ever. I just watched and waited. When she finished to generous applause, the board chair, Mr. Sterling, took the podium. Thank you, Diana. Now, he said, let's take a moment to honor the true heart of this foundation, our donors. He nodded toward the AV technician. The massive screen behind him lit up. The room fell into a hush as the video began. It started with my mother's name on a donor plaque. Then, with a gentle transition, the slide changed. A receipt appeared, showing the same donation amount, but the name was mine, Amelia Evans. The date was from over a year ago. Slide after slide, receipt after receipt, the video systematically revealed the truth. Every act of generosity my mother had bragged about was linked to my anonymous financial contributions. The silence in the room was deafening. All eyes turned from the screen to my mother, who had gone pale. Backstage, Elena, who was working the event, found me and wrapped me in a tight hug. We finally get to thank the right person, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. As the video ended and a confused murmur rippled through the crowd, my mother found me. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in. Fix this, she demanded, her voice a frantic, hushed whisper. You tell them it was a computer error. You owe me. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and felt nothing but pity. I gently removed her hand from my arm. I don't owe you the credit for my life, Mother, I said, my voice calm and clear. Leo rushed to her side, his face a mask of fury. He looked at me as if I were a stranger. What have you done? He seethed. You've destroyed our family's reputation. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I simply turned my back on both of them and walked away. I moved through the crowd, and something amazing happened. Guests approached me, not with pity, but with respect. They shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and thanked me, genuinely, for my contributions. For the first time I was seen for who I truly was, not who my mother had pretended I was. As I reached the edge of the room, Mr. Sterling, the board chair, touched my elbow. Amelia, he said quietly. Could we have a word in private? He led me to a small, quiet room off the main hall. Mrs. Albright was there, smiling. What you did took immense courage and integrity, Mr. Sterling began. The board and I have been discussing. We'd like to offer you the newly created position of Director of Community Impact. It's a leadership role, reporting directly to us. We need someone with your merit and moral compass. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, offered based on my own work, my own character. I accept, I said, my voice confident and strong. Just then, the door opened. Leo stood there, his face pale and sweaty. Amelia, he said, his voice pleading. We need to talk. Please. I followed him outside into the cool night air, away from the gala's lights. The bank froze the account, he blurted out, panicked. Your mother's friends won't return our calls. Everything is gone. He had lost access to the money, the status, the influence. He wasn't sorry for the betrayal, he was sorry he got caught. I felt a profound sense of peace. I'm filing for divorce, Leo, I said. I'll be reclaiming what's financially mine. All of it. His protests faded into the background as I walked toward my car. A group of people stood by the entrance, Elena, the other caterers, and several foundation staff. They began to applaud. It wasn't a loud, dramatic ovation, but a quiet, respectful one. I got into my car and saw a new email on my phone from Mrs. Albright. Congratulations, Director Evans. The community deserves leaders like you. I finally allowed myself a real, genuine smile. This wasn't about revenge. It was just justice.